When it comes to the most popular topics on Let's Talk About Sex, LTA Sex, this channel, dick riding is absolutely in the top 10 easily. Typically, every January, we like to go through and give you a guide on exercises you can do. People are starting to work out, giving yourself extra motivation via, being able to bounce up and down and ride on it like a rodeo. Um, that's probably going to give you extra motivation and energy to be in the gym, I would think. Yeah, probably get you over that January hump so that you can get over multiple humps and do a couple more. I This year I wanted to expand that a bit because the topic is so popular. I have got to get my mustache curled. Because the topic is so popular, I wanted to sit down and expand it. I actually waited to make this video until I was pretty confident in the format I wanted for the new version of LTA 6 to go. So we went through all the other versions, and now you get to see me. A couple years ago, I did a video like this. The topic was cuckolding at the time. And that one was more popular than most of the other ones that we've released this year. The reason for that is partially the topic, but it's also partially the fact that I'm just able to talk to you. A lot of times with me being a little uncomfortable, it makes it hard to talk, but we're just going to try and work it out. I have my blog here in front of me. I'll be referring to it throughout the video to go ahead and give you the most complete information. I'm not going to be reading the entire blog. If you want the detailed information, go over to the blog, ltasex.com. You can find that. It's going to be the most current blog when this video comes out, but you can just search dick riding in the search bar and you'll find it, guaranteed. Oh, before we get too far, let me introduce myself. Welcome to Let's Talk About Sex, a show where we talk about sex. I'm your host, Jerome Stewart Nichols, resident sexpert at ltasex.com, Mr. Butters at getthebutters.com, and today we're talking about dick riding. No, we're doing the dick riding masterclass. So before we get too deep in the video, I want to go over everything that we're actually going to cover in the video. We're going to be talking about riding styles, how you actually choose to do it, the positions that you can do it in. We are going to go over the 11 exercises that you can do. We're going to cut it into a bit of a montage so it's easier to reference. Then we're going to drip down into and drip down on. We're going to do a little bit of ergonomics. You might be surprised, but a lot of the discomfort with riding dick or squatting in general is just ergonomics of your body. Then we're going to go into more anatomy stuff with the shoulder and hip relationship. It's not just the alignment there. Jesus Christ. Next, we're going to get into pain, how to handle discomfort and whatnot. What to do when it actually does start hurting, because, even you can do everything you can to avoid it. And then Lord knows, these old knees. I'm 38. I know that's not that old, but you understand. Like, once that 30 ball hit, yeah. So we'll follow that up with what his dick is actually responding to so that you can understand a bit about what's going on with him. We'll teach you about beat, rhythm, and your nervous system. Now, this one is going to be a bit of advanced level. I said this is going to be a masterclass. What I did with this is put together every bit of information that I have possibly learned I've been studying sex for over 20 years now, but in all my years of learning, everything that I've learned to ride dick is in this right now. Then we're going to go to pacing. Oh God, yes. This is exercise after all. I'm rereading my blog and I'm like, yes, brilliant. Love that. Then we're going to go, penultimately, we're going to hit on like a quick reference guide to like fix any little issues that may come up, and then wrap up, get you fucked, and get the fuck up out of here. So let's get to the first start. So this is one thing that a lot of people don't really talk about when it comes to riding dick, is that there's different ways that you can do it. Now I'm going to put this on the table. I don't know if you heard the click or not, but there's going to be the press and melt, where you're sort of rocking into it and pressing your weight into it, sort of like making your soft tissue be part of the rebound more than just your body action. Great choice. Then there's going to be the circle, usually taking one hip and letting it rotate your motion back and forth, right? You can bow, bow, bow. It's more circular. That is good if you're like, if that one's going to take stronger legs to do, admittedly. Now, then we're going to go to the bounce and tease. Now, the bounce and tease is going to be a little bit harder to give you on hand, but it's essentially just going to be each time you're going up and you're getting to the tip, holding yourself a little bit. Now, typically, this one's going to be better when you're assisted and you can sort of like use your body weight to fall down, bounce back, fall down, bounce back. That also allows you to build strength while you're doing this, making sure that it's more of a exercise thing while you're doing it. It actually really mimics the motion of like a bouncing up and down or a goblet squat or some of the other exercises that we're going to get into coming up. Not next? No, because we've got the positions coming up next. So when we talk about the different positions, we have the upright straddle, the forward lean ride, the low grind, so that's going to be chest to chest, a wide knee ride, and then a one knee up variation. On the screen, there should be images. The problem is this is YouTube, so I'll probably have to draw them. I'll do my best. I'm going to also give you my little hand demonstrations because those work really well for people. So we have the upright straddle. So or honestly, I'm here. Let me move this out the way a little bit. Upright straddle. You're on top, hands forward, sort of bracing yourself on his chest. You can have your feet more back and behind you so that your posture comes up like so. I'm sitting in a chair right now and I have my feet sort of pressed back underneath the chair. They're probably maybe an inch or so behind where my actual hip joint sits. And it's actually causing that more posture motion, which is a good note so that you can see that the ergonomics that we're going to talk about a bit later is actually going to work for you. So you'll do the upright straddle and you'll just bounce, right? So then you can have a forward lean ride, and this one maybe your arms are more forward, leaning forward. Okay, same thing. We can have feet in all different positions here. Then we're gonna have a low grind. Now, on the low grind, you're typically gonna be like elbows down, like really, really close. And then you'll be using your hips down really, really close, hips sort of like popping up and down here, right? The wide knee ride. Now, this is if you're familiar with exercises, the typical one, a goblet squat would be a good one, or a sumo deadlift. And this is you'll probably have your feet closer to the actual body of your partner, but then your knees will be wide. You might have your arms back. Okay, so knees together or feet wide or whatever. You see what I'm saying. You might have your arms back. You might have your arms in front of you, like so, like down right on his hip bones, or even like on the lower part of his chest. You're typically not going to want to put your hands on his like what the fuck is this called? The belly, the stomach reason, the part where there's no bones, the gut. You're not going to want to put it there because it's going to be more painful. It's going to cause pressure on the organs, and we want to avoid that. The rib cage is pretty resilient, as well are the hips. Typically, though, if you can figure out, depending on like your size, your ergonomics, there's lots of different like things that make it more comfortable for you. The one knee up variation. Okay, so this one is a squat. You're down, maybe one knee, and then one knee is up, over and up. And then you can do that sideways popping motion. That one knee up variation is going to do really well with the bounce and tease as well. The circle and grind, probably the upright straddle, or not, that's too upright actually. So you're going to probably want to do like a forward lean to give yourself a bit more space and comfort on that. All of these are customizable. All of these are just different ways that you can do it to make sure that your bodies are working together the way that they should. And now we're going to get into the 11 exercises for masterful dick riding. This is the oldest part of the teaching, as we talked about in the beginning. But we are just going to run through this really quickly. If you need more reference, you can again go to the blog, ltasex.com. So first, as I mentioned before, we're going to do sumo deadlifts. This is going to be targeting your glutes, your hamstrings, the abductors, and the lower back. The wide stance is really, really good for hip stability. I really, really like the goblets, I really, really, really like the sumo deadlift because it's more comfortable for my hips. It also allows me to work on my hip alignment, which is a little bit off. So that might be beneficial for you. The hip abductor machine, the queen maker, or I think they might call it the bitch maker. That one there is very underutilized. Obliques, abductors, very underworked out muscles, but they are very central to keeping you nice and steady. These are going to be doing the outer thighs, deep hit stabilizers, with things that really help you with motion and holding your body in sort of like a squatted position. Next, you're going to be looking into hip thrusts. You can do this on the machine or with free weights. Hip thrusts are super common. Typically people would, like, if you're on social media, typically you might see them if people are, I'm trying to lift, I'm trying to pump a girl who's a bit heavy. How much you weigh? I'm a hip thrust that much. Whatever. That is great. It works. But truthfully, it also works for riding dick. Don't let them fool you. That big old perky butt, it's working to help you ride that dick better. Traditional squats, goblet squats. I'm going to combine those into one because they're working the exact same things: quads, glutes, hamstrings. Now, the goblet squats does also work on core endurance. Goblet squats, you'll be holding something in front of you while you squat. I really like goblet squats myself personally. That's why I've mentioned both of those two. These are my two favorite exercises that are in this list here. I really like it because my shoulders are a bit unstable. So that the holding something there forces activation on the muscles, pulls my shoulders back, and then it allows me to work better. This motion here, hands together, is a great tip for if you're ever riding and you feel unstable or like you can't hold straight. Maybe your partner can't stand like the pressure or weight on them. Put your hands together. This is less stable. Hands together because you're allowing yourself to pull those scapula back over your rib cage. Ooh, that felt good. Now we're gonna get into planks. Now planks, you're on the ground, elbows on the ground, body flat. I'm such a Michigander. People from the Midwest don't always know that they sound like people from the Midwest. I know I sound like the Midwest. Planks, that's going to be doing core, lower back, and abdominals, as well as shoulders. This is also going to be helping you a little bit with obliques, but it tends to be centralized based on how you do it. Kegels. Now, if you are a sex pleasure fan, and if you're watching this, you probably are, Kegels are probably going to be familiar to you. These are essentially your pelvic floor muscles. This might be another way that you've heard it. These are the muscles that help you basically hold all your insides inside. At the bottom of our abdomen. I was putting abdominal and abdomen together. Abdomen. My brain is abdicating. It's words. Ugh. But it's holding all of your internals inside. It's what gives you a lot of stability, especially if you're in a low squat when your legs are not together. If these muscles are weak, typically it'll show up in a more squatty position. Like as soon as you try and sit or even get low at all, it'll immediately feel tight. Nothing's moving, etc., etc. That's often weakness in your pelvic floor. Another way that you might be familiar with your pelvic floor muscles or your Kegel muscles is through urination. Typically, If you are urinating, try and stop. These are the muscles that you're going to be working or isolating or thinking about when you're going to be doing your Kegel exercises. Typically, Kegel exercises just include squeezing down, hold, let it go slowly, squeeze down, let it go, squeeze, let it go, squeeze, let it go. Just a repetitive motion of sort of tightening, loosening. It's not always just building the muscle strength either. It's also building the mind muscle connection so that you know it's there and you know how to use it when the time comes. Mac. Lunges. Lunges, you're not getting my big ass out doing fucking lunges. The way my knees is set up, bro. Shit. But they are very useful for the task. And that's a good note, is that like, even though I'm giving you all of these tips, you always want to make sure that no matter what, you are doing what's best for you, what's healthiest for you. When we're talking about things like squatting, riding dick, anything that's like really doing something that's like not a usual movement for you, there is a great risk of injury. Don't ever push too hard. Don't ever go too hard. Only do what you know you can. And one other note about that is that when it comes to sex, people can be more tolerant to risk. Just be aware of that in your decision making. So lunges are going to be doing quads, glutes, and then your balance systems. I'm clumsy. That's really what it is. I feel unstable when I'm going down. So lunges, you're just going to be taking big steps, going all the way down, back up, down, back up. Works really well. You don't see many people doing them in the gym, but they are a very good exercise. You can modify them by holding something while you do it. Sometimes I see people do like a twisting motion when they do each lunge. However you feel like you want to do that, this is probably going to be a great idea. Burpees, high endurance activity. Even though I don't like lunges, I will do a couple burpees just because it's silly and fun. Burpees is the down, up, jump, down, up, jump, down, push up, jump, over and over again. That one is very fun. It's draining, but so is riding dick. So give it a try. If you've never done that one before, I highly suggest it. Yeah. Lastly, down here, we have yoga and weighted stretching. So we've done all these exercises that'll strengthen. And we're talking about like the big, bulky muscle fibers and that sort of thing here. Yoga is going to loosen you back up. It's going to get some like fluid in the joints. It's going to get your tendons, your tissues stretched, warmer, better, easier to move, more comfortable. You're also going to get stabilizing. We talked previously about lunges and like balance and whatnot, but yoga is really going to be where you're going to get a lot of that balance and stability in. Yoga and weighted stretching, that is. Yoga in particular, I have always done this video since I was a kid. It's Yoga for Dummies. It's available on YouTube now, but I did it on DVD when I was a kid. And that one little workout does a lot to really, really help. There are some particular movements in there that would probably help more than others, but I find the entire routine to be beneficial. It's really comfortable and helpful. It'll help you have control of your body, be more stable, and probably even feel more confident riding dick. Okay, now let's switch gears slightly. Let's get into ergonomics, okay? So one of the biggest limiters when it comes to being able to actually squat, and I keep saying squat over and over because that is essentially the movement that you're doing, and we need to learn the mechanics of that in order to make it work. So I previously mentioned that my shoulders are a bit stiff. Doing the goblet squat motion or prayer hands motion helps with stabilizing my shoulders and pulling it back. That is one of the best ways that you can do it. But it's not always going to be feasible based on the type of riding that you want to do. If you need to lean on something, you're not going to be able to put your hands together. However, you can change the ergonomics and just simply focus on making sure that your shoulders are never hunched. They're never hunched over. They're never coming around like this and pushing your rib cage down. They need to be back. Those tits need to be high and up. Okay, we need perky titties in order to make sure that we're riding dick our best. Okay, everyone loves perky titties. It helps you ride dick. This is a good thing for you. Trust me on this. Keep those shoulders back. And even if, I'm gonna set this down again. Even if you're riding and you need to lean, make sure the shoulders go back first, arms go forward. Now that might limit your reach, and that may be a bit of an issue. Maybe he can't lay down, maybe he needs to sit up. Okay? You can do it couch, chair, however you need to make it work. But you want to make sure that you're not overstressing yourself while you're doing this, just as much as you don't want to while you're exercising, because the same risks are available when you're having fun and when you're doing it, practice for fun. Do not hurt yourself to have sex. It's not worth it, especially when it's something like your knees or your hips or something like that. It could limit your ability to walk for life if you go too hard, too fast. You don't want that. We talked about shoulder ergonomics. Now we need to talk about hip ergonomics. Your hips are supposed to be very flexible. They're supported by a ton of muscles, but there's not a lot of like structure there. If your muscles are weak, your joints are going to end up getting stiff. They're not going to want to move, yada, yada. So make sure if you have an issue with stiff hips, if you can't touch your toes, if you can't sit on the ground and touch your toes, do it as an exercise. Stretching, go ahead and get that yoga in. This is going to be very, very beneficial with making sure that your hips are good. And other than the yoga and the weighted stretching for that one, I'm actually not going to recommend lunges if you already have tight hips. That one's probably going to be very uncomfortable for you. It might cause a little bit of damage. When it comes to things like hips, they tend to get locked up over years and years and years, your hips and your shoulders. So if you decide to start doing things to them, take your time, be more gentle with it. Typically, I'm going to have you do, I have in here deep squats, the hip flexor stretches, Cossack squats, 90-90 rotations. And then I do have in here that once you get more advanced, you can move on to like controlled tempo or controlled depth lunges. But just going with the completely unsupported lunges, especially right out the gate, that's going to be bad news typically. Now, one of the things that people may not realize when it comes to ergonomics, we've talked about the hips, we've talked about the shoulders. Now, there is a connection between the two. When one goes up, the other one goes down, vice versa. They're always complementing each other and making sure that your body stays roughly stable, that your head is in the right place on your body. That compensation over time can lead to like one side having weaknesses and the other side being overstrong. This is something that gets more into like a physical therapy type of vibe. But if these are things that you notice, they're going to want to be things that you focus on. When you are writing, you can compensate for these things, but realistically, they are going to add to your fatigue, and they can also increase your risk of injury. So you want to make sure that you're being conscious of these at all time. I don't necessarily usually recommend things like wearing braces or yada yada. I typically will do more ergonomic things to just make the motion less impactful than actually trying to control it. Now, of course, you know your body better than me, but it is just my personal professional opinion that typically you want to try and just limit usage of that during fun times because you can tend to overwork it. So here we have a couple of tips for ergonomics really quick. If your shoulders are fatiguing, bring your hands wider. So if you can't do this, right, to allow yourself to pull the muscles back, then set them wider off to the side. If you're leaning onto something, you can move them outward like that. Typically, and I'm feeling this right now in my own body, typically what you would notice is that they would have a hard time moving. There's a stiffness somewhere. Maybe the clavicle is attached to the rib cage. Maybe the scapula itself is a bit stiff and maybe slightly adhered to the rib cage on the backside. Maybe the shoulder joint itself is just not in the optimal position to move. But moving your hands themselves will allow that to happen. This motion here works really, really well. If you can maybe put something on the outside to hold on to, that would work really well if your shoulders are not working well or feeling like they're locked up or stiff. Now, if you feel like your hips are being locked up or stiff, try rotating them. You can lay on your back, put your legs together, bring them up towards your tummy, rotate left or right, right? If you're in the actual moment though, you're going to want to try that like one leg up, one knee up variation of the riding position, because that can allow you to either lean into or lean away from the natural compensation that you have or discomfort to make sure that the situation rides on into the sunset. If your knees hurt, okay, now this one is common. I've talked a lot about bad knees on the website or on the blog. Check that the knees are tracking outward, not collapsing inward. Shift more load into your heels and glutes. So if you are having knee problems, you're definitely not usually going to want to have the knees directly in the bed. You'll probably actually want to be on your toes. That might sound a little more difficult, but it does allow for you to have more control. You can use things like pads or pillows to give yourself a little more height. If you do put your knees on the bed, one way to adjust would be to put pillows directly under your shins to sort of lift them up off the bed slowly, or slightly rather, so that you are at a slightly better angle. A lot of what we're talking about in here is very specific to how you have sex, the ergonomics of the furniture that you have. This is one of the biggest factors, and why a lot of times you don't see people giving a lot of advice on dick riding is because you have to be a bit more thorough and have to think through a lot of different scenarios that are difficult for people. It's also kind of just like a shy topic to talk about. Like dick riding is kind of explicit. It's just what I do, so we talk about dick riding. Now, if your lower back is hurting, that part is basically every adult has lower back arthritis in America, at least, especially if you're an office worker. But if that's happening, then you're probably going to want to stack your hips over stack your rib cage over your hips. In that case, what that means is sort of making sure that if you have your chest out, make sure that it's not arching your back, but instead opening the rib cage itself. The rib cage can often be very stiff, okay, especially in strong people. So if you're a person who already lifts, you might experience a lot of rib cage stiffness, a lot of pec stiffness. Okay, so we did talk earlier a bit about stretching in yoga. These things are very helpful in terms of rib cage stiffness and chest stiffness. My chest is very stiff. Typically, one of the exercises that I like to do when my chest is like this, I will literally just use my fingertips as like a pad, and I'll rub them up and down over the edge where the joint meets into the sternum here. I don't touch the sternum itself because that can be a bit sensitive for me. Everything's very tight. But I will press down and just sort of shift the rib cage around a little bit. Now, there's probably a physical therapist out there who's like, don't tell people to do that. Don't tell people to do that. But leave it in the comments if you actually care. I'd be happy to give a correction. It's just something that I do. And oftentimes sharing personal things help people a lot. Now, a lot of times when it comes to sex, people think that pain is normal. It's not normal. It's discomfort makes sense, yes, but especially when it comes to things like your joints, you are really going to want to make sure that you're not causing them pain at all. Treat pain as a signal that something is wrong. Not that you're not doing too much, not that you're or that you're not doing enough, not that you're doing exactly something wrong per se, but that pain is just telling you that you got to do something different. And now, right? So if you have knee pain, hip pinching, or lower back fatigue, these are going to be 3 red flags that you need to stop what you're doing and readjust. Okay. I already gave you a couple of tips on how to do that. You would probably be able to figure it out better. If you have specific questions that I can answer, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll answer them in another video. But for right now, I can give you my tips on what to do when pain goes crazy. So make sure that you just slow down first. Sometimes when we get excited, we start moving faster than our bodies can actually process the motion. I don't have any like facts or anything. I just have this sort of like sensation that we kind of move at a natural speed. Sometimes like it may be like a neurological speed or something like that. But if you move too fast, sometimes your tissues will not have time to like get in place, do what they need to do, yada yada, and that can really be harmful to you. So step one is going to be slow down. Check to make sure that your rib cage is stacked over your hips, nice and open, right? Add rotation. Again, we talked about doing the one leg up variation. You can do either side. You can also do a one arm variation if that helps. Now, you see what happened? My shoulder actually like went over. Told you I got messed up shoulders. Old stiff man. But lost my track. Oh, add rotation. You can also just sort of put your body over to one side, put both hands on both sides, and use your hips to do it the other way. Do it on the other side. Any sort of little ergonomic tweaks, customize it, make it comfortable for you. If you're, the other thing that you can do is widen your knees or narrow them intentionally. Sometimes, even though I spoke about making sure that your knees track out earlier, sometimes people can have an issue where their hip or pelvis is tilted and then one side rotates out too far and the other one does not, or it rotates inside too far. Little things like that. In that situation, what you'll probably find is that putting one up will be just your natural default. And in that case, you're probably going to want to actually go against your natural inclination a little bit. Just push them ever so slightly. If you're moving slowly, it won't really be an issue to make sure that you're keeping that in mind. And if you are also using the exercise tips, these are also things that you can practice and train for and train out of in your exercise. We've talked so many times about this. Use your hands strategically. I'm not even going to reiterate that. Put your hands where you need them to be. Or look at me lying. I'm not even going to reiterating. Put your hands where they need to be. Make sure they're not on the belly itself. They can be on the rib cage. They can be on the hips. They can be on the bed. They can be on the wall, the bed frame, the back of the couch, the back of the chair, however you need it to be. But just stay away from the soft tissues so that you're not putting pressure on the organs. So this is an exercise tip that I always tell people, and it's brief. Just breathe. Like, I know it feels amazing. You're riding dick. Riding dick feels great. You're so excited. Everyone's so excited that you are riding dick. Trust me, I'm not there. And I know everyone's excited that you're riding dick. Breathe. In a lot of ways, I'm talking to myself. Because I forget to breathe sometimes. But when we're getting really excited, like I said, we can forget to breathe. We'll go, that sort of dealio. And you want to make sure that you're always just nice deep breaths. My nose is stuffed because you could go in through your nose, out through your mouth, but do it how you need to do it. Sometimes people prefer breathing one way or the other. Keep those breaths nice and controlled, nice deep breaths. If you are getting too out of breath, then you just simply need to slow down or pause for a minute. Now, in this section about ergonomics, I would be derelict in my duty if I did not mention that wearing high heels or a shoe with a lift is one of the killer hacks to make sure that you're more comfortable. Even for people like if you're short, tall, big, small, it doesn't really matter. Getting those heels lifted off the ground, especially if you're a taller person, is going to help get those get your knees, your hips in the right position. It also gives you something to press down on to. Typically when I tell people to wear heels when they're riding, they think, why am I putting my shoes on the bed? Well, here's the thing, buy some shoes that you wear in the bed. Like, it's a genius option. Absolutely genius. And a lot of people who are best at riding dick actually already do this. Sometimes it's it often starts as like a extra performance. It seems like it would be harder to do, but since a lot of people can't flat foot squat in the first place, taking away the foot effort by giving yourself a base with that heel is excellent. So now let's talk a bit about what's going on with him down there. We've mentioned a few things, which is, making sure that your hands are in the right place so that, you're not squishing his organs, bursting his spleen, anything like that, popping a kidney. Sure, there's two, but, you need both of them as long as you can. Maybe your brother will need one. Make sure the organs are safe, please, and thank you. Now, typically the thing that's going to be most of concern, because truthfully, a little discomfort is usually acceptable if you're getting your dick ridden, whatever. If you're being treated like a horse at the Kentucky Derby, typically that's very few things that you care about except for getting over that finish line. Let's be real. So there's a lot of leeway that the rider has to, make sure that they are comfortable for the longevity of the game. You want to make sure you get through all laps. The thing that usually annoys people, and the thing that usually annoys people, and the thing that makes people often decline being ridden is the scooting motion, the scooting motion that happens sometimes. The tips that I've given you so far will avoid that. A lot of times why that's not good is because it's putting the penis in an awkward angle. A lot of people don't realize that the penis is actually very, very, very sensitive to multiple things. Speed can often be disquieting, uncomfortable, overwhelming. Pressure, angle, and timing, though, are killer. And typically what is going to be responding to. Pressure, depending on the man, squeeze, softness. Typically, most men are going to prefer softness, though. That's just what I found throughout my years of talking to people. They typically want soft, comfortable, accommodating. When it comes to angle, you can't bend it. First, let me explain a bit about the anatomy. It's essentially 3 tubes of fluid. One of the tubes has your urethra inside of it, and then the other 2 are down on the side, which make up the bulk of the weight of the penis. If you bend it in an uncomfortable position, it will create uncomfortable amounts of pressure inside. It can cause slight limiting on how good it feels. There's not often pain if you're bending it in the wrong way, unless you're bending it too hard. But we're just talking about different angles of the penis. We're also talking about the penis that's outside. There's lots of penis inside. But if you're bending it at the base of the penis itself, right at the pubic bone, it's typically going to be more comfortable to do, but it's still probably going to need to be at a certain particular angle if ejaculation or orgasm is the point. If this is just a part of the sex that you're having, then typically the angle is not going to matter so much, except to make sure that it's not overstressing or causing any bends in the penis, on the shaft of the penis itself. Timing. Timing is one of those expert things that a lot of people don't think about. When the penis is moving in and out, typically everything is not moving in sync. It's all soft tissue. So and there's friction. So some things are being grabbed on and pulled slow, and like certain, like it's like a symphony of sensations that are happening in there that is really often overlooked, especially not just with the texture of the person that they're inside, both the anus and the vagina or the mouth, a bunch of different textures, but then also with the penis itself. It has texture to it and shape to it itself. There's a mass to it and a density to it, and all of that interacts with one another in real time. It's not a clean slide, 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 slide. It's like a slide, grab, skin pull, slight reaction. Like, and if you go too fast, many of those motions can be missed. Timing ensures that you can make sure all the tissues are being stimulated all the way up, all the way down. It's a very concerted effort to make sure that the penis is pleasured. And if you're watching this video, obviously you care about that a lot. Now, another part of your writing performance that you really want to make sure that you get right, or that you want to focus on, that a lot of people forget, and you're in the masterclass, so we want to make sure we hit all of those angles. Every angle, every corner of that shit. Is the beat, the rhythm, and your nervous system. We talked a bit about this when it comes to the breathing. We talked a bit about the slowing down, but it also comes to your heart rate and your sweating. When I was first learning to penetrate, to fuck, to top, whatever, however you want to word that, that was one of the things that made a big difference in my overall performance, was just making sure that my body is running at a pace and at the natural rhythm that it's supposed to be. There's typically like an arousal cycle, an arousal pattern. There's certain times where you'll be more horny. You may be able to do something like, if you hop right on and maybe try riding dick, you might not be horny enough to do it. You might actually just be slightly uncomfortable. But if you wait until later on in your arousal cycle, typically you might be able to do it better, a little longer, a little more comfortable, because all your chemicals are running and whatnot. Now, of course, I also told you to make sure that you're being aware of your body. You never want to hurt yourself. You never want to push too fast. All of this actually just goes into making sure that it's done in the way that your body needs it to be done. Pace yourself. You don't have to ride too fast. That is also one of the reasons why right at the top I mentioned the fact that you can bounce and tease, is that not everybody is going to be able to bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce. And maybe that's not even fun for the person that you're under. And honestly, it oftentimes, from talking to men, outside of the scooting, the constant bouncing is also a little bit uncomfortable or disquieting because it gets to be too fast or too hard. So if it's not good for him, it's not good for you. Maybe we shouldn't be doing it. Make sure that you actually treat this as exercise as well. Like, I'm talking about pacing. I'm talking about it in exercise. I'm talking about it in sex. I'm talking about it internally. And I'm also talking about just make sure that you're pacing yourself in terms of like how much you're doing. Choose your position of your skill level. Like, if you're getting up there in age, be more careful, go a little slower, take your time. If you need to ride dick for a little bit longer, no one is going to want to be mad at you about that. No one's going to have a problem with you about that. If you need to go up there and slow stroke that dick with your insides however you need to, that is okay. You don't have to get all, tense and anxious about it. Slow down. Relax. Now, we have talked so much about riding dick. And that brings us to the end of the show today, actually. This topic, as I talked about in the beginning, how it going? This topic, as I talked about in the beginning, is one of those things that is so important to people. It's very difficult to do. It is a great skill. The fact that you are even here trying to learn this, incredible. There's, often not a lot of care put into doing things like dick riding. And if you are here, you are putting your partner's pleasure first. And hopefully the tips that I've given you today have been beneficial for your dick riding exploits. Yeah, maybe, hopefully. I hope so. Leave a comment down below. If you like the format as well, leave a comment down below. Best thing you can do. Leave me a comment, leave me a like. If I get the hype feature, hype it up for me. We will be back here in probably a week with a slightly less in-depth topic. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it'll probably be shorter than that. These masterclass videos are typically going to be like a once a month dealio, and then in between we'll have shorter videos talking about other things. You can also expect new things to be showing up on the channel. Some of them won't actually be going over to the blog because there's no reason for it. It's not exactly a podcast. It's just like more let's talk about sex content, like following up on things, answering comments, that sort of deal. That sort of stuff will be posted in the meantime. But I have been your host, Jerome Stewart Nichols, resident sex expert at ltasex.com, Mr. Butters at getthebutters.com. And until next time, keep it sexy. That was a long ass record. I did that all. Fuck. And if the cherry's sweet, it falls right off the bush. Don't push. Don't push. And if the cherry's sweet, it's right off the bush. An hour?